What's going on, guys? John here from What's Spinning, coming at you today with a new 21 Savage review. His new album, I Am Greater Than I Was, which took me a whole lot longer to figure out the title than I probably should have. But anyways, let's chat about this new tape. It dropped late last year. We're going to chat about it now. 21 Savage, Atlanta rapper. He's been around for a couple of years now. And for the most part, it's been a little rocky with me and him over the last few years. Like, I've sort of gotten the hype at times. Like, there's been times where I'm like, okay, he definitely has a very grisly delivery, but I'm not really into his performances. His whole first couple of mixtapes completely blew by me, to be perfectly honest. Like, completely. And with, like... And around the time of his Savage Mode project, I thought I was going to finally get into, like, some more 21 Savage's stuff because he was working with Metro Boomin and he had proven up until this point that he had some actual chemistry with Metro Boomin. But still, I found that his performances were incredibly one-dimensional. And while I did appreciate at least some of the risks that he was taking as far as, like, Issa went, the Issa album, that is, and just how much, like... he was working on, like, different kind of production and different ideas. This was a lyrical wasteland. And it wasn't until that Without Warning tape that he did with Offset and Metro Boomin a couple of years ago that I finally started getting into and understanding 21 Savage, his very grisly performances. And at the very least, I could sort of, like, start to look past some of his sleepy demeanor. But call me crazy, I've actually been, like, sort of curious about what Savage was going to do next. Mostly because I did really like that Without Warning project, but mostly... recently, I thought that some of his features have been really, really great. So I've been looking forward to this album, and here it is, out of nowhere. This album starts out with the track A Lot, featuring J. Cole. It's a very soulful sort of beat, which is not where I expected this album to start at all. And what follows, it's really not that bad. It's a pretty thought-provoking and interesting look into the sort of mind of a modern gangster. But to be honest, I think he's done this just a little bit better at certain times in the past. But what starts to stick out about this is really interesting. It's just how dreary this is. And it ends up almost giving this like a sort of confessional tone to it, and a very dreary one at that. And that's interesting. And that's like a theme that runs throughout a lot of the music on this album. And sure, a lot could have been a little less repetitive, but still, 21 sounds like he's got a clear mind. And not even J. Cole can bring that down, because newsflash, I'm not a J. Cole guy. And as a matter of fact, his verse here is cheesy, and his sort of monologue is ridiculous. No, I'm much more interested in tracks like Out for the Night, which has this more upbeat and driving sort of nocturnal beat that is just like immediately encapsulating. And I can't stress this enough, like throughout this entire album, Savage just sounds so much more interested in what he's talking about. Like, interestingly enough, not only does he come off super aggressive on Out for the Night and just super clear-minded, but he's dropping some, like, super almost cute bars about his, like, love life now, which actually come off really classy and just almost cute. It's strange outside of that whole thigh with rice line, oh boy. But outside of that, like, it's tracks like this that help him get more personal without letting go of any of his street credit, which is great. And if we want to talk about another track like this, we have to talk about All My Friends featuring Post Malone, who we know he has great chemistry with. His verse on Post Malone's Rockstar was, you know, very low-key, but I thought it was very memorable at the same time. And newsflash, this might be the best song of the bunch. Post's sung hook is incredibly hypnotic and just dreary and sad. It adds to the already very emotional sound of this entire project. And on this gloomy beat, when Savage jumps on it, he sounds so distant, and he sounds like every word he's saying about, you know, his friends and betrayal and stuff like that. It just makes it hit home so much harder, and it's great. And not for nothing, I really don't think that I've heard Post singing better than he does on the hook here. And this very emotional tone just sticks throughout the entire album with some of the later tracks like Monster and Ball Without You. At times on Ball Without You, this literally sounds like an honest-to-God ballad coming from 21 Savage, which is not where I expected to hear him right about now. Here he goes into friendship, and he goes into this ex-lover who wronged him. We end up feeling really sorry for him, and this is not where I expected to be right now with 21 Savage at all. And it's a very interesting surprise, and it's a very personal album overall. And most importantly on Ball Without You, it never ends up getting sappy or like corny or cheesy, which is great. However, I do have to say that some of the auto-tune vocals towards the end weren't really necessary. That's just my thoughts. And we also have Monster featuring Childish Gambino. This one continues to drive home the fact that it's a very personal album, diving into thoughts on fame. And honestly, while I've bashed Gambino's rapping in the past from time to time, he sounds really good here. He sounds rejuvenated, he sounds energetic, and he just sounds like he belongs on this track, and it becomes really hypnotic. And while some of, like, the hand claps and the chorus are a little cheesy, it's still a very personable track. But for those of you who have showed up for the bangers, trust me, there's plenty of those too. Don't worry about that. Like Break the Law, which is one of the earlier tracks on here. After the sort of dreary, slow start, this one gets going very quickly with these like a very alarming and urgent beats. And here we do kind of see a different side of 21 that we used to see on like his early mixtapes and the Issa album. He's not a lyrical genius. He's going into selling dope and getting with women, and we've heard all of this for years. This isn't anything new. But he does end up pulling it off with this very murky beat. He comes off like a killer on this track. And most importantly, especially for me, it seems like Savage has kind of put the mumble rap behind him, because he sounds energetic as hell on this track. Like, he sounds genuinely like into what he's doing, which is big for him. And then we have, which is sort of like the antithesis of all the personal tracks, we have Gunsmoke, which just from that very dreary, twisted, freakish intro, I was on the edge of my seat. Here we see Savage going back and resorting to some of his more violent ways, and track is a monster. But it once again ends up working great because he just comes off like a cold-blooded killer here, and he sounds awesome. And some of his lines here are like absolutely like brutal. And even little details once again, which this album is packed with, like the alarms in the background, the urgent beat, it makes this track so exciting. Even tracks like Padlock, like where this is instantly exactly where I want to hear 21 Savage. It's really interesting because this almost comes off like, if you're reading this, it's too late era Drake. But I mean that in like the best way. Like, this comes off so chilly. It's so simple. And yeah, we sort of see that modern gangster kind of thing from Savage once again, but it just works so well here. But what's even more interesting about this track, and it's something that is, like I said, a theme of this entire album, is even when he comes off so vicious here, he comes off almost like he's confessing all these things, and you end up having sympathy at the end of the day. Now, this isn't a perfect album. Case in point, we have tracks like A and T here. Like, why are we here right now? Why are we at this point right now with 21 Savage? Like, I can handle sex in my rap. I've enjoyed Cupcake albums in the past. You know, it's cool and all, but this is just so thrown together. And this is like so unbelievably cheap, and the beat just sounds like it was made so quickly. This just, at the end of the day, just, to me, comes off like a major backtrack. And we have Can't Leave Without It featuring Lil Baby and Gunna, which honestly, like, it could have been something better, because like the beat is super haunting and chilly. It almost comes off like that Without Warning project. But like, Lil Baby and Gunna bring absolutely nothing relevant to the table. They end up being just the absolute worst and bringing down and sucking the life out of this track. And I have a lot of the same feelings on Good Day featuring Schoolboy Q, which I honestly was kind of psyched for. And once again, it has a very chilly, haunting beat that I was super into when I first heard it. But once again, I feel like this track was phoned in, and I feel like 21 Savage and Schoolboy Q are both better than this. Thankfully, though, I feel like he at least sort of wraps things up nicely. We have Letter to My Mama. This is a really interesting track, once again, insanely personal. This one ends up being, like, seriously sweet, once again, with 21 Savage reaching out to his mother here, telling her how proud of her he is, and telling him how much he means to him. And it's really sweet, but he pulls it off well in like almost like a conscious hip-hop sort of way. Like, I'm almost getting some Mos Def Black on Both Sides vibes on this one. But with this finale, 4L, it just kind of cements my thought that 21 Savage is so close to creating a truly, really good rap album, but still has a little way to go. Once again, beat is great here. It's super dreary and haunting and chilly, and I love the production here once again. But here, Savage doesn't sound nearly as interested or conscious. He just sounds like he's back in his Issa days again, and it's just really kind of depressing to see. Like, sure, it's aggressive still, but for me, it's just not cutting it. So overall, on this new 21 Savage project, I'm feeling a light 7, around the 7.5 territory. What did you guys think of it? If you've listened to it, let me know down below. If you liked the review, give a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know down below what you want me to talk about next. And see you guys soon.